If you're not aware of heavy metal, then you should know that it's a very old magazine. It's decades old, started in 1977, and it's been going ever since. It features themes of dark fantasy mixed with sci-fi, and it's got a little bit of steampunk here and there, and also a little bit of fan service, a little bit of erotica. And as you can see, it's got very ushikushi ladies on the cover, because you kind of get the type of audience that this business have. You kind of get the type of fans that are interested into these types of comics. And it's most likely teenage boys. I mean, I don't have the numbers, but I'm willing to bet that the overwhelming people that buy these comics are teenage boys. You're not going to find my mother, who doesn't like any type of violence, buy a comic which has a skull on it. No, this is just for the people that like to see a very beautiful woman holding a two-hander and beating the living hell out of a warlock with it. That's the target audience. And the formula of selling sex and violence seemed to have worked for decades. I mean, again, this comic started in the 1970s, and it went all the way up until today. It was published in a time where religious people who didn't like violence, or magic, or depictions of the dead hold cultural dominance. And yet this comic managed to still sell, even during those times. At a time where Dungeons and Dragons was considered problematic because it teaches kids how to cast sorcery. In a time where Harry Potter was considered problematic because it teaches children how to cast sorcery, this comic book managed to sell. And apparently it's not going to survive the new culture, the new way of thinking, which exists mostly in the West. I mean, other countries do not suffer from the mental damage that people in certain English-speaking worlds seem to suffer. And this is the idea that you're not supposed to draw beautiful women on a comic book. And I'm willing to bet they can't even articulate why anymore. Like, I know the reason why it started. And it started in academia, where experts, smart people, came to the scientific conclusion that the West is a rape culture. And by drawing beautiful women on comic books, teaches men that it's okay to grope women. I don't know why they came to this conclusion. I don't know how they figured this out, that a man can't tell the difference between something fictional and a real woman. Or that if you see skimpily clad women with swords in their hands, you're going to end up becoming the next rapist. I don't know. I don't know why they say this, but they do say it. And because of that, I don't even know if the people who want to censor beautiful women in comic books even are aware on why they should censor it. They just know that you should. They just know that decent people don't draw beautiful women anymore. So now they decide to cover them up, right? Because they don't want to be viewed as misogynist. They don't want to be viewed that they hate women. So they have to cover them up all the way to the neck. Many layers of clothing upon them. Many, many layers of clothing. And this is kind of hilarious because it's in contrast to what's happening in the real world with what actual teenage girls want to do. I mean, just take a look at OnlyFans or Twitch or any of these other businesses where women like to cosplay and they like to dress up as characters. You'll see that they actually, in reality, have absolutely no problem with skimpily clad women. All right, like this is just some, I don't know, expert talking point from the academia that just really doesn't translate in the world. But, you know, you still have companies that like to cover up their art style in order to be viewed as progressive. Now, this is what it's called going woke, right? Like you take something that has been working since the 70s and it has been selling well since the 70s, and you want to change it for no reason whatsoever besides ideology. Like you're not asking the customer if the customer wants this to change. You're not doing any poll or survey. No, you just like, no, you know what? We're a progressive company now. We're not going to draw art like we used to. Even though it's a visual medium, even though like it was probably a big selling point. I mean, you're making a massive change, but they're just doing it for the sake of doing it, right? For ideological purposes. And I guess like the way they view it is that maybe if they change, like they're going to attract a wider audience. Like the reason I guess women don't read this comic is because of skimpily clad girls, which is not true. I mean, if you look at manga, there's a lot of manga with skimpily clad women that girls like to read. Like that's not something that keeps women away, right? It's most to do with the story. And I'm willing to bet it has to do a little bit with the violence. Because I had a lot of girlfriends in the past that I tried to introduce them to comic books and I tried to introduce them to video games. And the thing that they always said that they don't like video games is because of violence. Like any type of violence is too much for them. So I don't know if this is a trend. I don't know if many girls don't read this type of art because of the violence. But, you know, that's the feedback that I got. So considering it was from different women from different points in time, I might think that there might be something there. But, you know, like going woke by itself, like changing the art style, I don't think this is enough to alienate people. I mean, sure, you know, like maybe some people who bought the comic because they like the erotica and they like the fan service are probably going to stop buying it. I mean, the same people that would go in a comic book store and they would see a beautiful lady on the cover and they would go like, oh, I don't know anything about this comic, but this lady looks appealing. You know, they would have probably bought it. I mean, sex does sell. This is known, Khaleesi. The Grand Prix girls used to exist, even though boobies have nothing to do with racing car. Or do they? But there is a reason why Twitch is popular. It is not video games. Let's just be honest. There is a reason why OnlyFans is popular. Boobies sell. And you just decided, for whatever reason, to remove the boobie because you want to go woke, right? I don't think this is enough to destroy your business. I don't think this is enough to make you go broke. What is enough to make you go broke, however, is when you start attacking the customer. The people that give you money, the person that puts food on your table, you act as if you're on top of the world. You act like if you're Jeff Bezos, swimming in trillions of dollars and can afford, in this economy, to tell people that you don't want their money. That's what makes you go broke. It's the arrogance of the woke. That's what it is. It's not the fact that you're woke that makes you go broke. Is that wokeness comes with a level of arrogance that only these people can display so that you can go to the customer and without any sort of PR, without any sorts of sugarcoating, without anything, you just tell the customer, we don't want you, go away, you're bad people. And this is the people that are supposed to give you money, right? Do you know what happens when you do that? Like this is marketing 101, by the way. A happy customer might recommend you to another person. A dissatisfied customer will tell 10 other people to stay the hell away from you. I mean, it's wonderful to see the epitome of corporate stupidity when you're shitting on the very few fans that are left. When everyone else is moving to the manga because the Japanese creators, they do that shit on their fans, so you actually get something for your buck. The few people that still buy comics are being shaped by the companies that sell the comics. This is just... I don't know if this happens anywhere else besides the entertainment industry. Maybe it happens in the government. You know, you give your tax-paying money to the government and then the government can shit on you. Like, you can have politicians look at you with disdain. Like, okay, fine, but like, I understand it. Like, you don't need to like the government for them to take your taxpayer money. But the difference here is that they need to like the company to give money to the company. These people aren't selling food, they're not selling electricity, they're not selling water, no, they're selling entertainment. People can live without entertainment. You have competitors. If I don't like the water company, tough. But if I don't like my comic book company, I can choose something else. And look how condescending they are. You know, like once you're woke, it's not enough to be arrogant. You also need to be condescending. It's like you had trouble reading and comprehending their champ. Let's try this. We grew up, sorry. You will get there one day. You know, the only people that are obsessed with the concept of growing up are children. People who are grown up simply don't care. I can do childish activities and really don't care about what other people think. If I want, I can go out and jump rope like a boss. And as the neighbors look at me, I can laugh and I can say, what? Is that a problem? Do you have something, right? I can still act like a child if I want to. But when you're a teenager and you want to impress the other kids about how mature you are, and you start smoking or whatever in order to show how mature you are compared to them, yeah, then being an adult is an obsession. The rest of us who start paying taxes and work for a living, we don't care if you think we're children or not. I mean, no, seriously, right? Look at the avatar of this guy, right? Like, this is probably one of their older fans. Why would you care about this comic? Why would you care about heavy metal if you're not one of their fans? And looking at this guy, like, he seems like someone that was reading these comics from the 70s. So you're telling one of your hardcore fans, or at least potentially one of your hardcore fans, to go away. And by the way, like, I remember people from comic books not even knowing the difference between a hardcore fan and a person that just purchased the first comic book. They really don't know. Like, for them, it's literally the same thing. A hardcore fan is someone that not only purchases your comic book, but is most likely to purchase it in the future, is more likely to do free advertising for you, to suggest that comic to his friends, and is also likely to buy other merchandise associated with your comic. And even if you're not producing the other merchandise, you will get more company doing deals with you and willing to pay license for them to make the merchandise if it sells, right? So that's what a hardcore fan does. That's what, like, probably this gentleman does. He's most likely going to recommend this to his kids. Well, not now. I guess after you told him not to buy it. A person who just buys one issue of a comic isn't going to do all of that. You know, he's a potential returning customer, but he's not a loyal fan. I mean, there is a big difference. Even when I go to like I used to go to this restaurant, and I would go there every day because I didn't have a kitchen yet. I was just moving. I was still renovating, so I didn't have the stove. I was going out to eat. And as I went there every day, I noticed that the waiter was a lot more nicer to me than everyone else. Like, he would come to me first before other people. And the reason he did that is because he was understanding the business. He was a smart person. Like, he knew I was there every day, and he didn't want to lose my business. It's not that he was not nice to the other customers, but he was a little bit nicer to me. He would ask me about my day. He started learning my name, and he would give me a little bit more attention. That's smart business, right? Because the other customers, yeah, sure, you know, like they might or might not come back, but he knew that I would bring my friends. He knew that I would come there the next day. Like, he didn't want me to select another restaurant and bring the same level of investment that I brought there. And this is what the people who go woke don't get, okay? Like, the people who go woke don't care about the business. They don't seem to care even when the business goes under. And furthermore, they literally view this, like, they view their business, instead of a company that's supposed to make a profit, they view it like a position, like a podium to change the world. You should see the people at IGN being freaked out right now because the parent company doesn't allow them to do politics about Israel and Gaza or whatever. I don't know, but it's bizarre, right? Because that's how these people think. They don't view themselves as, okay, I'm hired by this company to make money for this company. No, they view themselves as better than you. It's almost like a position of power, like they've been elected in parliament because they managed to get into the position of decision making in a corporation. And then they looked at their clients not as people willing to give them money. They look at, like, the good customer and the evil customer. And the evil customer needs to go away. The evil customer needs to be shunned. And if they were to have, like, only 10 customers, but all 10 of them are woke and have the correct politics, that is the correct dream-making job for them. Like, that is the perfect future, where they have, like, very few customers, but all of them have the correct politics. And by the way, like, this has to do with inclusion. Like, the concept of inclusion for the woke means that every single product in the world needs to be for everyone. So this comic book should be for everyone. And the main reason that not the entirety of the human population reads this comic is because part of the fandom is filled with toxic people. So there are people that would like to read this, but they're not reading it because they're being put away by the evil fascist people that are the consumers. So if you convince the fascists to stop buying your comics, then the decent people and the rest of human society will start buying it. But in reality, it's obviously not that. Okay, this comic isn't for everyone. There's a lot of people who aren't interested in violence, for example. There's a lot of people who don't like sci-fi because it doesn't speak to them. There's a lot of people that don't like dinosaurs. These people aren't going to buy your comic, no matter what. And you can try to change. You can try to remove the violence. You can try to remove the dinosaurs. You can try to remove the sci-fi elements. It's not necessarily going to bring the other people, but what it definitely is going to do is going to alienate the fans that have read your comics since 1977. And this is why going woke is going broke. It's nothing to do with necessarily the wokeness. It's with the arrogance. It's with the bad decision making when it comes to doing business. And it's also got to do with the condescending attitude that these people have. And with the fact that they're explicitly against the fans. Like explicitly they will tell you, we don't want your business. And that's why going woke is going broke. It's got nothing to do, because a lot of people go like, oh my God, this is the ideology. Yeah, sure, the ideology is also part of the problem because it has become a trope. It has become cliche. It has become like everywhere you look, you see the wokeness. And it's boring and stale. That's why people read manga. Which, by the way, is true diversity, right? It's made by Japanese people. You're supporting people of color when you buy manga. Which, by the way, not only are the producers Japanese, a lot of manga writers are women as well. And you also get the mangas themselves, which have a lot of Asian people in them. So if you support diversity, buy more manga. America can't produce good comics anymore. And not only that, but some businesses actively attack the fans.